Boom. Welcome back to the Tuxes Tomahawks podcast, everybody. My name is Adam Dorito, and today I have a very special guest. I'm really excited. We've been talking in the background for a few weeks now. Baker Leavitt, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and we're definitely excited to talk to you.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be
Yes. So, like, you're the man. I mean, you are the director of strategic communications for Black Rifle Coffee. You work with SmokelessVets. You're the KillCliff energy drink guy. You know, like you're doing all the great things in our generation around the country to try to get, vets and people motivated to do all these amazing things. So tell us more about you. Like, how did you even start, in these businesses? How did you get, started with this? What was your early life like?
So, I'm from Savannah, Georgia. Grew up, high energy kid. Played sports my whole life. At a much earlier age, I was very athletic. Talented kid. I hated school, hated being in the classroom, hated sitting still like most kids. And Dad died when I was 5. My brother was 8 weeks old. My mom was in grad school, so she said she didn't have the energy. She said I always wanted to raise myself, but she didn't have the energy to fight me, so she just let me do my thing. And that's where everything kind of started. Is I've always done things my way, and more times than not, it's always worked out pretty well for me. It's funny, if you were to talk to my mother, and she would say, I have never once in my life worried about Baker. She said, because I always knew no matter where he was or what he was doing, he could take care of himself. She worried constantly about my brother, Mitchell. My brother, Mitchell, he's an MD. He was a Force Recon Marine with a couple deployments under his belt. Worried about him constantly. Never once ever worried about me, which is probably honestly the biggest compliment anyone has ever given me, because that's just kind of, I wake up and I kind of go where the opportunities are each day. I like people. And I enjoy chatting with people and getting to know them and just seeing what's going on. And like, I'm not motivated by money. I'm motivated by making good decisions and making like good introductions. Here's a textbook example. So it is 1:00 Eastern, 11:06 Mountain Time. In 1 hour, this is what I'm about to tell you is a byproduct of networking and just talking and meeting people.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
being out for yourself. Jared Isaacman, who is the nominee to lead NASA, he had his confirmation hearing last Wednesday. He's flying from Bozeman, Montana to Salt Lake City, picking up Evan Hafer, the CEO and founder of Black Rifle Coffee, and flying back to Bozeman to go fly around in a couple of MiG-29 Fulcrums.
It's badass.
Evan doesn't know
badass.
Evan doesn't know this. I just told him to be at KPVU airport at 12 noon Mountain. I said, don't ask what you're doing. Just be there. So he doesn't know. The cool thing about, I got nothing in it for me other than I'm doing a solid for Jared Isaacman, the NASA nominee. I'm doing a super solid for a person who's my boss in real life in one facet of my life. And it's just super badass. Jared Isaacman, though, is of all the appointees that Trump's nominated so far, he's the most qualified, and it's not even close. And I'm going to tell you why. He had his confirmation hearing last Wednesday. The Senate is on vacation for 2 weeks because obviously those guys work so hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Need to go to recess.
Brutal life they live. So he dropped out of high school when he was 16. Okay. Started coding in his parents' basement. Well, he dropped out of high school because he thought raising your hand to ask if you could go to the bathroom was ridiculous. So he starts to code. He starts a credit card processing company that he still owns called Shift4. Shift4 processes $200 billion with a B dollars in credit cards a year. Okay. He was always obsessed with flying in space and fighter jets. So he goes down to Embry-Riddle, which is about 7 miles from my house, gets a degree in aeronautical engineering or aeronautics, whatever it's called. And obviously he's making money with his credit card processing company. So he learns how to fly, and he starts buying foreign fighter jets. And that led to him starting a company called Draken International, which is the largest privately owned fleet of foreign fighter jets in the world.
Yeah, they're the guys that do all the the Red Air stuff with the like Nellis and Red Flag and stuff, right?
Yeah, the Op 4
Yeah. Yep.
stuff, like Top Gun and all that stuff. So he's got 7,000 hours in a cockpit in foreign fighter jets. He's got the world record for circumnavigating the globe in a fighter jet, 61 hours. I mean,
God, that's gotta suck so bad.
no
Being
interest.
stuck in that cockpit for 61 hours.
Yeah. And then always obsessed with outer space.
Mhm.
So what was it, 2018-ish? Elon Musk is like, whoever raises the most money for St. Jude gets to go up on the next SpaceX mission. So he pulls out his checkbook and goes, 100 million should do it. Strokes a check to St. Jude's for $100 million. Winner. And has since gone to outer space 2 or 4 times total. He's got 8 days in outer space. He's the first civilian to ever do a spacewalk. Commercial astronaut. It's called a commercial astronaut. He's the first civilian. And Elon, up until about a month ago, Elon's header on his Twitter bio was Isaacman doing a spacewalk. He's worth $1.9 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And he's 42 years old. So
it's
you think about
pretty accomplished.
No, but you think about it. Like, there's people that have been nominated in the administration that are I think when I look at Black Rifle I've been there 10 years. It's a publicly traded company. We've had since, I think we did, this is public. We did like 413 million in sales last year.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds and 900 employees, big company. So I look at things like, do you have the ability to run a massive organization? Yes or no? Do you have the ability or experience from an operational level to work to run an organization? And normally you get someone to check one box, okay?
Right.
You never get anyone to check both boxes. So this dude has owns and runs a massive business that does hundreds of billions of dollars in financial transactions a year, okay? He's also got tons of experience working with the U.S. government through government contracts because of his company Draken International, doing all the Op 4 stuff for the Air Force and the Navy.
Yeah, for sure.
And then he has the operational experience because he's a world-class pilot, and he's been to outer space a few times. So, and more importantly, the dude's going to get 80 votes in the Senate on his confirmation. Like, he's going to get bipartisan support. Like, he is wildly qualified, and I am so stoked for this guy because, like, so I turned 50 in August, and I remember where I was when the Challenger exploded. I was in Ms. Sasser's fourth grade class. And when I was a kid, dude, like astronauts, it was like deep blue hero stuff, you know, like American exceptionalism, you know, we won the space race, all this great, amazing stuff. And we need to get back to that, inspire young men and women to want to be great and just go to where the stars are. So Evan and Jared and Sean Gustafson, who's a former Thunderbird pilot, is going to be flying Evan in one MiG. Isaacman will be in the other MiG-29. They'll be doing like duels and formations and all that stuff.
That's really cool. You know, and I think
you're not getting me in one of them. No.
They're not that bad. I mean, I've flown 16s and, you know, flown around those for a little bit, and they're cool. I mean, I'm a little bit more impartial to American engineering versus Russian, but I mean, MiG-29s are still pretty wild. But, you know, you bring up a really good point that I think a lot of people underestimate, especially what Trump has been doing in this administration and the appointees. You know, for a lot of people, they say, oh, we don't want rich businessmen, you know, controlling the government and everything else. But actually, if you look at it, it's a lot more cutthroat in the civilian world, running a business, understanding employees, selling a product, whatever that is. And that takes a lot of effort and a lot of failure up front. And you have people like Isaacman who have obviously had to catastrophically fail in order to understand what actual legitimate business success is. So these are people that have been through the ringer. They've been through this capitalistic system through the United States for decades of their life. And now they actually want to come back. And like I said, does this guy need to work for the government? No, he's worth $1.9 billion, right? But they take it as a responsibility of social responsibility to come in and actually work for their government, make it more efficient, you know, and bring their expertise of what they've been doing over the years and actually try to run some of these defunct and horribly operated organizations that have failed for my entire lifetime for the most part. I mean, heck, I'm in the military. I see the fraud, waste, and abuse that's going around. You know, that's why people are like, oh, I don't want Trump to be president. He's like a billionaire fucking businessman. Yeah, but look at the efficiency and how he's been changing things. Look at how Isaac's coming in and going to try to revamp NASA, because NASA was especially after the shuttle program ended, like, well, what is NASA going to do now? And obviously they do a lot, people who understand how NASA actually works. But this is an opportunity for successful business-minded Americans to come in, actually work for the government, contribute. Because in the past, most of the people that have been head of these organizations, like you said, are radically unqualified, right? They meet one checkbox or they meet one requirement, and then we watch them continuously fail, and we continually pay these people to fail and not bring back that American exceptionalism, that deep blue hero stuff that you talked about.
Yeah, that's like the people that are always like bitching about like, oh, it's a bunch of the billionaire class. It's like, first of all, I'm not listening to a loser. I don't give a shit. I'm not
Right,
listening
exactly.
to like, I'm not like, if you're like a librarian or you work at the DMV, you don't get to tell me what to do. I don't give a shit. I'm not
and you
listening.
shouldn't head NASA
Yeah.
if you're a librarian, right?
I want winners in places of responsibility. And
Right.
like billionaires, dude, those guys have won a lot. Like, and
They weren't handed that by the government. You know what I mean?
No one like just becomes a billionaire,
No.
Bits and gigs. No, dude, it is a lifelong dedication. And like, I want people that have when I look at someone's biological passport, I want to see success after success, win after win, just someone that stacks wins their whole life. Because here's the deal. Those people are goal oriented. Like most billionaires aren't strictly driven by money. That's not what motivates them. It's winning, stacking wins on top of each other. And they have like a can't fail. It's a whole different mindset. It's like win at all costs. So you want someone like that in that position. And I'll say this, I'll tell you what we're not going to see out of him. A bunch of dipshit selfies in a plate carrier holding a fucking AR looking like it's a broomstick. Like it is a hot potato. Like Kristen Noem, that photo of her the other day, like cosplaying as a ICE agent. It's like you're an administrator. You're an administrator. What are you doing? Right. Exactly. Like I'm a fan of what she's doing, but it's just like, listen, like chill with the girl boss shit, and chill with the transparency that the administration is doing. Wholeheartedly embrace it. We know what's going on now. They're telling us every day. But like in social media, if you don't have anything to say, don't say anything. And don't like chill with the stupid photos. Like, why are you wearing a plate carrier? Why are you holding this other dude's AR? And you look awkward. Bongino, another dude. I have a lot of respect for Dan. I do think Dan is qualified. From a media standpoint, I think he's qualified, and he was in the Secret Service. He was a New York cop for 4 or 6 years, and then he was in the Secret Service for a dozen. It's like, do the job, and when you have good quality updates, update us. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see and hear nonsense. Like, you don't just say something to say it. Like, give us tangible, actionable information that you guys are doing. Like, end of rant.
No, I think, like I said, you're the director of strategic communications for Black Rifle. So I think you recognize strategic relations, right? And I think you recognize these things, and I've seen that in the social media sphere as well. And like I'm a way small time guy compared to you guys, but if you don't have anything to say, don't say anything, right? Because people want to.
Hold on, this is Evan. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hey.
That's right, everybody. Evan Hafer just had to give Baker a phone call. No big deal.
What's that?
But yeah, I know we're live on these things right now. But it's cool, man. Like we're here talking strategic, relations here with Black Rifle. We're talking about, people being put into positions of power under the Trump administration and things that we can do effectively in order to communicate these messages further, in order to make America better. And improve these processes.
That was Evan. Hold on. He's trying to find the airfield. I got to make one more phone call.
No, you're fine.
Can you edit this out, or am I an asshole?
I mean, I can edit out the other part. I mean, you're live on YouTube and X right now, but it's fine.
All right. Sorry. Hold on.
No, it's fine. Evan Hafer was just calling, Baker Leavitt. No big deal right in the middle of the show. So it's fine.
Yeah, this is one of those things where I have to answer this. There it is. Casey. That's not the right one. I apologize. There it is. This is Isaacman, who I'm calling now.
Oh, that's fine. Just talk to some guy who flew 61 hours in a fighter jet around the world. Which,
I don't
keep in
know.
mind, people, if you've never flown in a fighter jet before, it
Hey,
sucks.
Casey, this is Baker from Black Rifle.
Yeah, it's it's fun. You know, it's really cool for like a short period of time, like 90 minutes to 2 hours. But being stuck in a jet for 61 hours circumnavigating the globe is definitely a feat. Never mind if you have to use a piddle pack and go to the bathroom and all these other things. Probably take a lot of Imodium in order to block yourself up. So yeah, sorry guys, I know we're live, but Baker had to take a phone call from Evan Hafer of Black Rifle and Jared Isaacman, who was just appointed as the nominee to lead NASA, which is wild, right? So today we're talking about business relations and integration and bringing successful people in order to run the United States government. And I think the last part of the discussion that we were having before Baker had to take this phone call with Mr. Isaacman, no big deal, you know, the appointed director of NASA, is if you don't have anything to say on social media, don't say it, right? There's no point in rambunctiously just posting random things on the internet, especially when you're making yourself look ridiculous by, you know, posting random pictures of yourself in a plate carrier like Christy Nome did the other day. It's not effective strategic communication in that aspect. And sometimes saying less is more. So
Yeah. So regarding, sorry about that.
no,
Regarding like communication strategy.
yeah.
So we're transitioning now from the creator economy, which is there's a million people that think they're an influencer, and we're transitioning into the curator economy where people are asking, why am I following this person? What's in it for me?
Right.
What is the point of this? So when you have to be super selective because they want, what's the value proposition for the consumer? Like, why am I following you? What are you providing me that gives me that warrants me giving you my attention and seeing what you're posting on social? So when you post something that's just pointless, just for this, oh, we got to get something up, don't ever do that. That's the worst thing you could possibly do in social media, is just posting for the sake of posting. It doesn't make any sense. It's silly.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point. It's actually a really good point. And I think a lot of people who they all think they're influencers or they all want to try to get these followers and stuff. But if you're not providing value to your customers or your audience, then it's going to be completely ineffective.
Yeah. So like, there's
like you guys strapping a Vulcan cannon to a Prius, that was awesome. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, have you seen the footage of what Richard Ryan did to his Plaid S like a month ago?
No, please tell the audience what he did.
So Richard bought a Plaid S and put let me find you a photo of this bad boy. He put a shredder, a minigun on the hood, a fully functioning,
like a Dylan arrow cannon.
I'm going to show you. You know more about the names of these things than I do. Let's see, Richard Ryan. There it is. It is one of the most badass things that I personally have ever seen. Shit, I'll just go to his damn Twitter account. I have access to it. All right, let's see what we got here. It is just complete. Oh, here we go.
What the fuck? That is awesome. It's like Terminator shit.
Yeah, but dude, it's also got FLIR. You can run 175 miles an hour down the road at night.
That's badass. This is
what
what America's all about, people, putting Dylan arrow cannons on a Tesla Model S, Plaid S.
Took 2 years of work to do that.
Yeah.
He bought it, and he did not get in it for 2 years. It's got it's this undercarriage. I know nothing about cars. I have literally zero mechanical skills or engineering skills. That's just not the way my brain works. But like, I mean, he put a couple hundred grand into that thing. I mean, and Richard's one of my closest friends. He's a co-founder of Black Rifle, but he's like a tech executive guy. And if you go on his YouTube channel, Full Mag, like he has done some of the most amazing things, like with Priuses and Teslas, and like he took one Tesla that had the Tesla X, I think, where the doors open, the Lambo doors.
Yeah.
So the doors open up, and then 2 mini guns, functional, pop out of each door.
That's awesome. I need one of these in my life.
Like he's done, and like he put like a Land Rover Discovery behind like a recoilless rifle because he was shooting. he blew something up with a recoilless rifle, and the back blast was so substantial. They're like, man, what would happen if we put like a vehicle behind the back blast just show how strong it is? And it turned, and he shoots all this on a Phantom camera, which is like $250,000, like a super slow-mo thing.
Yeah.
And it turned the Discovery like jelloed it. It just went.
Yeah.
He's got some of the most epic videos you've ever seen on his full mag, FULLMAG, just insane stuff. But yeah. So we were talking about comms. I tried to take that call. So we're talking about like communication strategies and things like that. So the current administration, and I think they're doing amazing things. The tariff thing's a little bit kind of scary because you have to go. I will take short-term discomfort for long-term prosperity any day of the week.
Yeah.
But like if you're looking at your retirement count every day and you're a year, 2, 3 years away from retiring and your account's down 30 or 40%, yeah, you're going to be uneasy. But give it 6 months and let's get all this stuff worked out, these trade deals worked out. And everything needs to be fair. Like I don't like your parents shouldn't support their kids their entire lives. And that feels kind of like that's what we're doing as a country with all these foreign nations. And it's like, hey man, like at some point, like you guys got to take care of yourself and like, govern yourself, govern your own country.
Right.
And it's not our job to like pay you. And like the trade deficit we have with Canada, it's like $100 billion a year. That's not fair.
No, it's insane. And like they are the largest supplier of foreign oil to our country too. Like it's kind of funny. So I work at a refinery. So 80% of our oil, or the foreign oil that comes into the state of Colorado actually comes from Canada itself because we have one of the few refineries that can process tar sands. You know what I mean? But like there's a strategic advantage to that, in terms of like the North American continent. But in terms of like why are we basically paying them to supply us with this end asset to make asphalt for like the 5 major states in the area, and then nobody says anything about it. It's like, oh, we'll just lose a couple $100 million over this. It's no big deal. Like, it's just Canada. It's like, no, that's not how that works. You know what I mean? Especially when we have literally most people don't know this, but the North American continent in the United States, we actually have the largest oil reserves in the world. We just don't tap them. We have so many assets and so much self-sufficiency, which is why, Trump's drill baby drill initiative is great, from a very simplistic, people who don't work in the industry understand that, you know what I mean? But we have the ability to do things on a much more larger, grander scale than even the Middle East does, and we could do it way better. We just don't, because we've had people, like you said before, who have been in positions in the government who don't understand how these things work.
So I have business partners in Midland, Texas, the Permian Basin, which is ground zero.
Oh, right? God, I worked there for 3 wonderful fucking years in Midland and Odessa and Orla.
They're some of my favorite people in the world.
Oh, they're great. It's like Iraq down there. It's great.
What most people, it's feast or famine, boom or bust. One of my really good buddies, one of my good buddies on Twitter has a Ford Raptor tracker, and he posts how many Raptors are for sale each week.
That's actually really funny. That's really funny.
Feast or famine, I think like each day it's going up. But the thing that, the Biden administration, they're like, oh, we're producing more oil than we ever have. That may be true, but like the majority of the oil this country produces is not for fuel. It is for plastics. It's that midstream stuff. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think New Mexico is really one of the only places in America that has oil that the quality is high enough that we could use it for fuel, because the stuff from Saudi Arabia is totally different than what we get here in the Permian Basin.
Correct. So in the United States, we mostly have something called sweet crude. So sweet crude and actually the Denver-Julesburg Basin and the Bakken up in North Dakota is a little bit rougher to refine. But Denver-Julesburg Basin pretty much goes from Colorado down to New Mexico. It actually looks like diesel fuel. It's a light green color. And when you refine it, you can actually pull more gallons of gasoline, diesel fuel, Jet A out of it than you would be in the Middle East. So that's why people understand, like, the Middle Eastern oil is terrible quality. It has a very different quality than the United States does. So they get less barrels of oil fueled, distilled out of it than they do in the United States. So our WTI, West Texas Intermediate, is a much higher quality than the stuff overseas, which is why we could sell for higher price per barrel. But unfortunately, we haven't built refineries in this country in a very long time. You know what I mean? So what we're left with is what we have, the infrastructure that exists. Like, the biggest refineries are obviously Louisiana, Texas, things like that. But the issue is that we export a lot of just our raw crude elsewhere to get refined, and then we buy it back, which is absolutely stupid. You know what I mean? So if we actually put in more critical infrastructure to actually refine our own fuel at a higher capacity, because we're pretty much at capacity, right? We can only, whatever it is, we refine, say, 1 million or 2 million barrels a day. We could refine 5, but we don't have the capacity to do it. So we have to send it to another refinery like Venezuela or whatever, and then, and shift it back here.
Why don't we refine our own oil? And before you
we do, we just can't refine as much of it. And that goes to your argument. Like, we have the most oil in the world. We can't refine it fast enough. So we have to export the raw crude oil to other countries and let them refine it themselves. So we actually lose in the profit margin, because you make more money selling distillate refined products and plastics and pharmaceuticals and whatever else you need than you do just selling the raw crude oil and the raw material. So
that's one of I think the oil and gas industry is absolutely fascinating, because it's one of those industries that very few people in this country know anything about. Like, for example, like, if you're not in like Texas or Colorado or New Mexico,
North Dakota,
Oklahoma,
all the big
parts
ones.
of Wyoming, parts of North Dakota, you have no idea about the oil and gas industry, how it works. You don't know anything about it.
No, you don't.
You've never had any exposure. The thing that fascinates me, when they drill a white truck, from the time they dig that first rat hole, 1,300 white trucks visit that site before anything comes out of the ground.
Correct.
Yeah,
it's a huge operation.
Fascinating to me, dude. Like, it is it blows my mind. It is one of the most fascinating things ever.
That's what I've worked in for 13 years. I mean, I shifted over to the refining sector when Biden got into office, because he collapsed 12 of our drilling rigs in West Texas. But I was on the fracking, midstream, wireline. I was a wireline engineer, so I did all that stuff. Like the what's that show with Billy Bob Thornton, Landman. Like, dude, and that's just small company workover rig shit. But like, I watched that show and like gave me like PTSD, like watching guys get blown up on pump jacks. I'm like, yeah, I've seen that. I've seen guys get wrapped up in chains. I've seen guys get crushed by pipe. I saw a guy get run over by an 80,000-pound forklift and turn into a human pancake. You know what I mean? So like, that stuff's, I mean, minus the hot daughter, mother scenario they have going on there, because those women don't really exist in West Texas. For anyone who's been to Midland, you know what I mean? But that stuff's real. I mean, that show is actually pretty accurate to a smaller oil company doing workover rig and trying to, reinvigorate older wells and stuff. I've worked with workover rig crews before when I worked for Noble. So, but the thing is that Americans really take for granted the access to energy aspect. And one thing, like, I work in civil affairs. I'm an Army officer in civil affairs in the Army now. And what people don't understand is that the biggest predictor for the success of a nation is your access to energy, right? So the more that a country's population has in terms of access to energy, that actually is a good predictor for a higher birth rate, cleaner water, access to electricity. So people don't understand this. The more we drill, the more access to energy we have, is the more people are going to prosper in all industries across the board, right? Even like Black Rifle Coffee, right? It'll lower the cost of energy to roast your beans, and lower the cost of trucking, the plastics you use to package, all these other things. Like, people don't understand literally everything you do in your life is connected to oil and gas. Even the soundproofing behind on this wall, right? It's all made of, some kind of oil derivative, right? But people take it for granted. They always want to buy these cheap Chinese products, which I know is another interesting thing, talking about these tariffs and everything else you wanted to talk about today is, yes, it does have a short-term effect in terms of the American consumer, because China has gotten very, very good at building very cheap things because they don't care about their emission standards. Like, they're building coal plants every day, and they have the industrial capacity. We can bring back a lot of that industrial capacity to the United States, which I think is a good objective for the Trump administration, is to bring back that industrial capacity, because I think we saw this during COVID. Once everything shut down, and then we didn't have shipping, coming into all the ports and everything else, we realized we can't even produce our own masks. Like, where did that capacity go? Right? We can't even produce like the little things. So I don't know how this is going to play out, to be honest, yet. Like, because we lost a lot of industrial capacity after, the Industrial Revolution. We were making our own cars and our own steel and everything else.
NAFTA with Bill Clinton basically shipped all of our manufacturing jobs overseas. And
Correct.
So it's interesting you mentioned about China. Like, China is not a free society, and I think when you have a free society, you have free thinkers.
Hmm.
and you encourage people to innovate and do amazing things because it makes life better and become more prosperous. Whereas in China, you know what they're really good at? Copying.
Yes.
You
Yes,
make
they are.
something, give them 7 days, they'll have it. They'll tech, weapon systems, technology, whatever it is, they will have it duplicated in 7 days. But they're really bad at R&D. They don't know how
Correct.
to do that because they don't have any innovation because they don't have any aspirations as a society. The people just do their job. It's like, oh, hey, the Americans made this, copy this. So they
Yeah.
just go copy it.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting. Like the shipping is going to be interesting. The California ports are going to be desolate. Um, interstate commerce, trucking is going to get hit. It's going to be interesting to see if they don't work out some deal here sooner. But I think what Trump's trying to do is he's trying to create so much instability in the market that the market tanks because he wants the 10-year rate to go down.
Yeah,
Because
for
the more
sure.
the 10 rate goes, because we have to refinance an insane amount of debt this summer.
Right.
And we have to have interest rates lower, which another interesting question is, why in the hell do we pay ourselves interest when we borrow money from ourselves? I don't understand that.
Yeah,
Why?
I know.
Who do we owe money to? Us? Wait, what? Yeah, just how about just pay back the principal? You
Yeah.
know?
And I think you would agree, especially since you're such a business-minded person, is that like we have been shoveling in this hole in the United States for so long that it's like, we're borrowing money from China, but then we're paying the interest back to China, and just to give more money back to China to buy more money for ourselves because we don't have any.
And they're
You
borrowing money from us and paying us interest. It's a game of like whack-a-mole. It's
Yeah,
absurd.
it is absurd. So
It's
like,
just
how do?
I just like the thing that has served me well in my business career is just taking a common sense approach to everything I do. Like people make things complicated. Things don't have to be complicated.
No, they don't.
We make them. There's no need to make something complicated.
So
It's
so
just like
speak so speaking of
and,
that, Baker,
uh,
like when you started your business career off, even with Black Rifle, how did that even start? Because I remember when you guys started off way in the beginning of the years. Like, how did
yeah.
you even incorporate into these guys, and how did you build such a brand that expanded so rapidly? With not it's kind of started in the veteran community with Matt Best and Jared and all their
Yeah.
their funny videos on
So,
YouTube, but like,
yeah,
it's
so
become a major enterprise.
I was in real estate for a long time, all
Hmm.
through the 2000s. And between 2008 and 2010, I lost about $15 million when the market crashed.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, it was awful. I lost, when I say I lost everything, like I didn't have to claim bankruptcy to this day. I still think about it. I don't know how I didn't.
Right.
I don't know how I escaped that. And I don't, and I'm a business guy. Like it's what I do. Like I don't, I'll never understand how I avoided that, but I did. And I felt sorry for myself for about 48 hours.
Hmm.
And this is 2008 to 2010.
Yeah, I was at the
And
academy at that time. So
I was like sitting around, and that's one of the things. Like when my father passed away, like the worst thing in the world was someone feeling sorry for me. Like that
right.
would enrage me. Like, and so I never ever allowed that to happen. So I'm sitting around, I was like, man, what am I doing? So I was like, all right, I'm going to join the military. So my brother had just gotten out of the Marines and he was starting medical school. He's like, you should do Rep 63 straight into into SF selection.
Yeah.
So I was going to do that, and I was about 50 miles from Camp Blanding, and the guy called, and he's like, hey, dude, you're not going to pass MEP. So you have an inguinal hernia, and your shoulder is completely shot. They're going to eat you alive. I was like, all right, well, I got to do something. So I started going through the Defense Foreign Service Agent program, and I realized if I had language and medical, that would make it easier. So I went to NYU to get a master's degree in Arabic, and I was taking emergency medicine at Columbia at night.
Hmm.
And about 6 months into that, I started a CrossFit apparel company called Tupood.
Okay.
And then a few months after that, we started KillCliff. And what I learned was mobile customer bases. So like Tupood was a CrossFit apparel company that was embraced by the CrossFit community and doing really well. And I was able to introduce this sports recovery drink that we started called KillCliff
Right.
to the Tupood customer base, and they started buying it. And I was like, okay, well, cool. And so KillCliff was, blowing up, and we ended up selling a chunk of it to a VC firm in 2013, and then we sold another chunk of it to another VC firm in 2017, I believe, 2013, and then 2017. I want to put a bookmark in that because I want to come back to a thing called the carried interest.
Sure.
And I took the approach with KillCliff of like naming the paper third-party validation. So like when I was in high school, this is pre-internet, like I'd wake up every Saturday morning and run down to the driveway and get the newspaper. And I wanted to see if my picture, if I was on the front page for the game Friday night, or was my name on the front of the sports section, or was my name mentioned in the article, did I intercept the pass, score, touchdown, whatever. Because that's third-party validation. And so I just took that approach to KillCliff's social media. And KillCliff was about brand at the time. It wasn't really about the product. And we built a company that was brand centric and everyone wanted to be a part of the brand. And I like to think a lot of the early days stuff that they did at Black Rifle is kind of mirroring some of the stuff we did at KillCliff. And then the guy that founded the company, Todd Ehrlich, was a former SEAL. And then he stepped down as CEO and they brought in this guy named Joe Driscoll, who was just a boner. And it's like working for people that you respect, and I did not respect him. And so I ended up leaving and starting a consulting company. And Evan brought me over to consult for Black Rifle in like 2015 or 2016, right when Range 15, the movie, came out.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how I got in with those guys. And the thing about it is, I've never wanted to be the news. I've always wanted to create the news. I think there's longevity there. And that's why, like, I'm in some content from, the big videos we've done. Like, I think some of our top videos, like, I have like a half or 3 second scene in, which I say the best videos we've ever done, I was in. But, like, I never had main character syndrome. And the beauty was I got to observe Evan and Matt and JT and how those guys went about things, and just basically was in a support role. And just kind of went out and like found opportunities for the brand and the company that could, pair with what Black Rifle was doing. And as we grew and grew, the bigger we got, the more we grew, the more my skill set was needed.
Yeah.
So it went from execution on stuff and strategic relationships, which became more important than just, dick and fart jokes on social media, So my role has just continuously expanded within the brand. And then we went public, I think it was 3 years ago, and that was super cool, to help take a company from nothing to, I think the day we went public, we were valued at $1.7 billion, which was pretty badass. And that's just kind of the genesis of that whole thing. Just always worked to provide value to my job and my clients and customers and people I work with. Pretty simple stuff. But I want to go back to the carried interest loophole, and I'm just going to kind of over something. So hold on a second. So like there's a proposal to raise like multiple taxes. One of those is tax on carried interest. And carried interest is the term to describe someone's share in a business they invested in to try and turn it around. So like with KillCliff, we had VC firms. We needed to grow. We needed to grow the brand. And to do that, especially grow in retail, it takes a ton of money. So we went out and, got brought in VC money. So, they invested in a business and you want to help, and that's your interest in it. So over the years, you carry that interest in the business. So if you invest in a failing business, risk your money, and if the business turns around and you make a profit on your investment, then some people want to increase the taxes on what you made, which I think is complete nonsense. Like if you invest in a business, you shouldn't be taxed more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So keep in mind, many of the businesses that are struggling are businesses up and down main streets across America. You think about, like, we're talking about like factories and apartment buildings and businesses that are struggling but don't want to close or lay off American workers. So it's a risky investment. Many don't work out, but small businesses and communities across America are helped when people step in and try to bring them back. If you want to hike the taxes on these profits, then just imagine how many people will say it's not worth the risk.
Right.
We need people investing in America. We need people investing in America now and putting their dollars on the line to build up businesses and support American workers. Hiking the carried interest tax does the opposite. We need to fight tax increases. So carried interest is called the carried interest loophole. That's one of the things that it's just you're increasing taxes. I'm against increasing any taxes.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So if you take a risk to invest in a company, and like if we got rid of, like, people always talk about private equity and venture capital is like the enemy. It's not. That's one of the things that drives our industry is you have to have people with large sums of money to invest large sums of money into businesses.
Yeah, how come most more Americans don't understand that? You know what I mean? Like, and you're a business guy and you understand this, but like, we all talk about, oh, we want to tax the corporations, we want to tax these millionaires and billionaires. They need to pay their fair share, but it's like you don't understand that that's not how this country's going to work. You know, $5 from grandma is not going to fix anything. But you know, they're not providing jobs, they're not doing anything. Like, and you've seen this in the multiple major businesses you've been involved in. Like you are like the perfect example of how our generation, like the 18 to 55-year-olds, you know, are being pushed out of this system in the government, and they're telling us that being successful is bad. You know, being a millionaire or a billionaire is bad, and that you should all just distribute all your money so all these people can get free healthcare and free everything else, when that's not what this country was built upon in this capitalist society.
No, you're exactly right. Like, the government should not get to decide or have a vote in who is successful and who is not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lord have mercy. Hold on one second. I haven't got a flat tire.
He's actively trying to run Black Rifle Coffee here in the background, guys, trying to get all this stuff done at the same time. It's I'm even privileged that you even wanted to come on the show today because I know you're such a busy guy, and I really appreciate that.
God almighty, he got a flat tire. Son of a bitch. Lord have mercy. Anyway, it's always something. Hold on one second. Bear with me. Alec. Bear with me. Sorry about this, everyone. Evan. Alec. This is Evan's number. He got a flat. I believe you are behind him. Fucking A. It's always something. That's the thing. It's always something.
Yeah.
Nothing ever goes, but it's always the things you remember the most are the things that were the most strenuous. And you don't remember the easy shit.
Yeah.
You remember the hard shit. You know what I mean? So, God damn it. Fuck. Hold on. Let me send one more.
No, you're fine.
I apologize. Bear with me. Hey.
So yeah, sorry about that, guys. I know, like I said, it's even a privilege to have Baker come on the show today from Black Rifle and running KillCliff and all these other things at the same time. And Evan Hafer just keeps calling him in the middle of the interview. It's you know, like I said, he's a busy man, and it's great that he even wanted to come on this show today. And you know, he's got to run the company in real time. But you know, what we're talking about here is like the importance of American entrepreneurialism. Okay, great, Baker. Glad to have you back.
Here's the good part about having a boss that was a former Green Beret. Flat tire is not going to derail him. He's just going to change it.
Yeah,
that's I'm happy there. So he's solving a problem that makes me happy. Lord have mercy. It's always some shit, man. Anyway, what were we talking about? I apologize. I keep getting...
So you were talking about the carried interest loop and expanding American venture capitalism and, you know, all these other things here, and,
yes.
and why businesses are important, you know, why we can't, you know, just tax the rich.
Yeah, you have
Eat
to
the
get money
rich.
from somewhere. And like VC firms and private equity, they bring more to the table than a bank does. A bank will lend you money.
Right.
And then they bring expertise, experience, vast information. They can help you improve your business, how it runs, how it works, corporate finance, high-level finance, all this stuff. They bring a lot to the table. Now, there's also horror stories with VC firms. Like there's tons of them, but I don't think the government should have a say in who is successful and who isn't. And when you hear these people talking about tax the rich and tax billionaires and pay their share, do you know how many jobs those people have created?
Yeah, I know. A lot.
Tens of thousands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just completely insane. So it's just nuts, man. But yeah. What else? I sent you.
So what's your opinion on this whole Canadian, like the Canadian tariff thing, and like removing Jack Daniel's Canada and all that other stuff? I know that was something else you wanted to talk about that I thought was pretty funny. So
yeah, it's like, so Jack Daniel's is American whiskey.
Yeah.
Made in Franklin, Tennessee. I've been to the factory. I've been to the manufacturing facility. It's amazing success story, amazing company history. And then we have these tariffs, and the way that Canada responds is they're like, "Yeah, we're pulling all this Jack Daniel's off the shelves."
Oh no! You already paid for it, you idiots.
Yeah, you already paid for it. They have your money. Also, by the way, you're literally less than 1% of Jack Daniel's Brown-Forman's annual revenue.
Right.
So like, what are you doing? That's the thing. It's like a guy talking shit when he's got his friend holding him back, and the dude he's talking, acting like, "Oh man, you better be glad he's in front of me," because it's like, hey man, like, how this situation would end. That guy's 6'5" and a UFC fighter, and you're some dumb drunk kid, like, and you're acting tough. Like, it's just absurd. It's posturing. But at the end of the day, like, chickens have to come home to roost, and like, your actions have consequences. It's like, just call Besant, Secretary of Treasury, and be like, "Hey man, we want to work out a deal. What can we do? Like, how can we work this together? Like, what can we do? How do we solve this problem?" Yeah, we've been taking you guys to the cleaners for years. There's a massive trade deficit. It's not. I understand your position. That's not fair to the American worker, the American taxpayer. We'll solve this. Stupid asses.
So where do you see Black Rifle moving now? You have this new economic environment under Trump. You have all these tariffs coming in and now. It's obviously probably impacted your business in different ways. But like, what's next for all the companies that you've been working with? Where do you guys see this moving for you guys, for American prosperity? And what's next for you guys in that sphere?
People always going to drink coffee. I haven't seen anything or heard of any impact affecting us on tariffs. Because remember when Colombia was talking shit?
Yeah.
Like,
they stopped that real quick.
Rolled in less than 24 hours.
Yeah, that's great.
Like,
got it. So, B-2 stealth bombers, baby.
We source our coffee from all over the world. Like, we have the largest coffee subscription service in the world. I'm actually going to get you set up on that.
Thank you.
Email me your mailing address. We have 267,000 people that get coffee delivered to their door every single month. It's the largest coffee subscription service in the world. A lot of focus on that. Super important. Better pricing, free shipping, all this great stuff. Yeah. But we have the exclusive coffee subscription service, which is those super cool bags that you see from time to time each month from us.
Yeah.
Those are like micro lots, micro batches. Those come from all over the globe, like in Ethiopia, Kenya, all over the place, Guatemala, everywhere. And so where do I see things going for us? I'm not really worried about the tariffs. Like, our product, like, it's not a luxury item. It's not like a $3,000 Staccato or, a $240,000 Range Rover. It's a staple. It's part of people's morning routine. And I'd love it. I'd love a hot cup of coffee every morning. It's the first thing I do when I get up. Make my coffee. It's what I do every day. It's part of my routine. So I think you're going to start seeing a lot better content coming out from us. You will see some stuff like Coffee or Die coming back, some other cool stuff. And I think, one of the things people listening that have any interest in business is, like, I think, like, companies are going to start working a lot more in partnership with each other versus influencer stuff. Because if you look at an influencer,
it's a good point. That's interesting.
We're totally dialed into when someone's trying to sell us something.
Right.
So if I follow Range Rover on social media, I want to see Range Rovers. I like Range Rovers. Okay. I want to look at them. I've owned 2 brand new ones before in my life. That was in the real estate days, but I'm expecting to be sold something. I'm there to look at something that's a luxury item that I like. And we'll talk about Staccato, for example, or Sons of Liberty Gunworks, or Christensen Arms Rifle. Sure. Christensen Arms, we'll use that. I am expecting to see content on a high-end, high-caliber rifle I know they want me to give them my money for their product. Okay. That's what I'm there for.
Mm-hmm.
If it's an influencer, say, for example, Caleb Francis, I'm there, or Travis Pastrana, I'm there to see Travis Pastrana do crazy shit at his house in Maryland.
Yes.
Do I know where that state is on a map? No, I don't. But I know I'm there to see wild and crazy stuff. Caleb Francis, I'm there to see him say funny shit. Okay. Mm-hmm. When they try to sell you a product, your spidey senses go up. It's like, wait a minute, they're trying to take my money. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
When I say, I mean an overt attempt at sales versus a business. So if companies, I think you're going to start seeing a lot of companies working with other companies in partnership because, like, let's take, we'll say Hannah Barron, for example. Cute little girl from Alabama. Heavy country ass accent. There's a lot of guys that follow her because they just want to look at her because they think she's hot. Okay. Mm-hmm. Versus, so her followers aren't qualified. I don't know who or what these people are, you know, versus, you know, Black Rifle doing something with Christensen Arms. You know, it's like, I know that the people that follow Christensen are following it because they want to look at high-end rifles and they're expecting to be sold something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a partnership. So I think you're going to see a lot of companies, you should, smart ones, drifting more towards partnerships with other brands versus working with influencers. That's my prediction.
And it makes sense, though, because like having more strategic partnerships versus relying on individual influencers, I think that was kind of like a fad probably during the COVID stuff where everyone was trying to be an influencer, right? But like you're not selling a product. You're not like, you know, actually marketing effectively. But now I think with this, you know, with all these economic changes we're seeing in the United States, I think it makes sense for American companies to work more together to make a more quality product and disseminate that, you know, through selective social media, you know, posts, like you said before, like don't post because you want to post something that's going to be effective for your customer base.
Post with a purpose.
Post with a purpose.
Yeah. So like, what do companies have? Companies have email lists. They have, yes, ma'am. I'm on a podcast. Is it an emergency or can I call you back? All right. Thank you. So they have email lists. They have SMS text lists. They have customer lists. They have customer profiles. They have sales history. Okay. Mm-hmm. They have distribution centers. They have promotions going on. They have all kinds of stuff. They have the ability to participate in a giveaway and do a collab. Like, hey, we're going to give away a Christensen rifle and a year supply of Black Rifle coffee.
Sure.
All right. There's value there.
Yeah.
That's how you grow because, you know, with the influencer thing, it's like you will saturate an influencer's followers inside of 30 days. After 30 days, there is no value add to them promoting your product because people tune that shit out. Right. So imagine some hot chick in a bikini that likes to fish on her boyfriend's boat. Good looking girl, fit, works out, likes taking sexy photos. She holds up a damn product and tries to get you to buy it. What is this shit? So the next time you're on social media, for all the dudes or girls listening, go on a influencer's page that's in the skin trade, as I like to call it, that sells them in bikini photos. Like they post photos of them working out or wearing bikinis. And I want you to look at the likes on those posts. And then I want you to find a post where they're promoting a product. It's less than 10% of the likes on the other products.
Right. Exactly.
People are like, get out of here with that salesy bullshit. I didn't come for that. I came to see you, you know? So
right.
I think you're going to see a lot of stuff trending that way. I think you're going to see companies get super creative. I think you're going to see companies, I think
it's good.
Like so in the investment banking world, when in times are good, they overhire. And when times are bad, they go to a skeleton crew. I think you're going to see a lot of companies have to get really efficient and focus on getting efficient with their workforce.
Yeah.
They'll start looking at departments, like how many people are in my finance department? How many people in my marketing? What's more important, having 40 people in my finance department or having 40 people in my marketing department in 2025? Mm-hmm. 40 people in my marketing department. Because you're going to have to do more marketing this year. You're going to have to do more quality marketing. You're going to have to spend more money. You're going to have to put out more content. You're going to have to do a lot more just to hit the same sales as last year.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So let's talk like some of the other work that you've been doing here with Smokeless Vets and Vote for America. Let's talk about some of your involvement in that.
Yeah. So Smokeless Vets, it's basically we want to get 1 million veterans between now and 2030 off cigarettes, smoking tobacco, and transitioning to smokeless tobacco.
Hey.
Yeah, this does not cause cancer. This is nicotine.
Yep.
You know, so
fully support that.
Yeah, I do too. I mainline those damn things, and then once a day I'll throw in a Copenhagen. So that's the goal. There is to get and put out a lot of good scientific information, like Dr. Timothy Vermillion, who is just an absolute stud. Puts out tons of great information from the VA. He's fantastic. I need to turn my text messages off. It's like, this is very fucking annoying. Excuse my French. They come on the screen and I glance at them. But yeah, so we want to get 1 million vets off cigarette smoke, off smoking tobacco, and transition into other forms. So the best way, so like here's what we learned. There's a study out of Sweden, one out of Switzerland, one out of the UK, and I don't remember where the fourth one was from. But the best way to quit smoking is transitioning onto forms of smokeless nicotine.
Mm-hmm.
So what we learned is lozenges don't do anything for you at all. The patch doesn't do anything but help you recover from actual COVID, believe it or not.
Interesting.
The vasodilator.
Yeah.
Respiratory. Helps you recover from COVID faster. That's the only thing the nicotine patch is good for. Nicotine gum is completely useless. Lozenges are completely useless. So vaping and smokeless nicotine, like little Zen pouches, Velo. Velo. This is talk about like super cool like inventions and stuff that you see, throughout the year. And like I get hit up all the time, like, hey dude, I'm thinking about starting this business, and my 95% of the time I'm like, that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. Like, who's asking you for that? Does it solve a problem? Does it exist? What are the headwinds? But anyway, Velo, look at that little disposable canister in the top for your throwaways.
There you go.
Close it down.
Smart.
That's inventive. That's solving a problem.
Right.
So yeah, Smokeless Vets is great. Vermillion's awesome. Work with a bunch of those guys. And then Vote for America was a project that we stood up, and the goal was we worked with apolitical influencers, because like the Charlie Kirks of the world, we know which way their followers are going, where they're already political. Mm-hmm. So we started focusing on apolitical influencers that had conservative interests. And we determined that about 85 to 90% of their followers were going to vote conservative. And then we dug a little bit deeper, and we found the number of licensed hunters and gun owners that did not participate in the 2020 election was 10 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. Imagine if you get all those people registered.
620,000 in Ohio.
That's insane.
Michigan was 370. Pennsylvania was like 515,000. Georgia was 360. So basically, if you could convert 3% of licensed hunters and gun owners who didn't vote in the 2020 election and get them to vote conservative, swing states are no longer swing states.
Right. I agree.
You turn blue states red, So it's just voter turnout. Conservatives don't vote. They're just low propensity voters. And so we basically went after the low propensity voter and those that hunters and anglers and 2A enthusiasts. And I think we got total 156,000 registered to vote that voted in the last election, which is a massive number. Believe it or not,
it is
huge number. So that's great. That's this. Excuse me. That's what voteforamerica.org was, and that was a fantastic experience. And like just winning and then sweeping all the swing states was just.
Yeah, and it's super important, because that's like what I get heavily involved in. Right, is that you have two choices in this world. You could be a resident or you could be a citizen. You could be the guy that bitches and complains and takes your kids to soccer practice and goes to work and, bitches on Instagram and Facebook and just be a resident and live here, or you could be a citizen. You have to actually participate. And as much as a lot of, most Americans don't vote, let's be honest, like 2/3 of Americans don't even vote, but here's the problem. Like if you're trying to run a business, if you're trying to take care of your kids, if you're trying to, live by these conservative values, you have to take these losers out of government. And we got some good ones elected. Like there's some people doing some good things. But the problem is we have too many people who have nothing else better to do than to use politics as a social club and a 6:30 a.m. pancake breakfast that are still running your life. And it is time for the age group of 18 to 55, the millennial generation, and our generations combined, to start taking over local politics, state politics and national politics. Because if we don't, right? I mean, and most of us served in the military. It's like, look, man, if you could stand in line at MEPS for 4 hours and do the duck walk, you can show up to your county commissioner meetings and actually start fighting for your tax rates or your businesses and things like that, right? You have a duty in this world as a citizen, as an American citizen, to actually start doing these things versus just complaining about it on social media.
Yeah, dude. So I went to DC for the first set of meetings last January.
Yeah, how did that? Isn't that fun? It's so much fun.
It was fascinating. It's the most rewarding work. Dude, listen, it is the most rewarding work I've done in the past 20 years. Yeah. Because they actually listen to me. Because I basically take the principles we use in marketing in the consumer packaged goods world and apply it to politics. It's the same shit.
Yeah.
I have to convince you to give me money for coffee. I have to convince you how to vote. The coffee costs money. If you don't get the coffee, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't really affect your life. You might be a little more groggy in the morning, but like if the election goes the wrong way, it has lasting impacts on your livelihood.
Correct.
And I learned that DC is Hollywood for ugly people.
Yes.
They all want power and control. They're just not good looking enough to make it in Hollywood. And like I was like, I've never met a person in DC that I would feel comfortable running my life and my family for, or any of my companies.
I agree.
Bill Haggerty is a badass. He's a private equity guy. He's a stud. I'd let him help run my business, but like the majority of them, it's just like, how are you in charge of anything? Like who listens to me?
I know.
I saw people there, as God is my witness. I saw people there. I'm like, you are something's wrong with you. Who?
Like Jasmine Crockett. Like, what the hell? That lady is so stupid.
Oh, Jasmine Crockett is very squared away. Compared to some of the other people I'm talking about.
That's a fair assessment. Like, that's fair.
You see with some of these people, and you're just like, how were you not thrown off the cliff at birth? Like the Spartans, just like, this one's got to go. But I think there are some good ones. Jim Jordan, I'm a big fan of his.
Yep, Jim's good.
Jim Jordan's a 2-time national collegiate wrestler. He's arguably one of the greatest wrestlers this country's ever produced. He's a stud. Mark Wayne Mullen, super successful guy in the trades, sold a plumbing company and HVAC company and made $2 challenged the head of the labor union to a fist fight in a Senate hearing. I was all about that shit, man. Like, hey, let's see what's going on. Who wants it? But you just meet a lot of people, and then you see how the sausage is made, and then you think you know how the sausage is made, but then you don't know how it's made, and
right.
It's all a big charade. It's like, USAID, for example, okay? You hear about all this Doge. This is my theory, okay? USAID, in the Special Forces Handbook, there is a chapter on USAID and how to use it effectively, okay? Mm-hmm. So they're not putting on the grant what the actual money is going to.
That is correct.
They're not saying this is to pay off a warlord in Somalia.
No, they just put it as $50 million in condoms to Gaza, and was like, "Oh my God, we're giving condoms to Gaza." It's like, no. This is a CIA fucking NSA program that you're not allowed to know what it is.
So the thing that's unfortunate is, I think those Zoomers. I believe the previous administration, was run by a bunch of far left progressive Zoomers.
Correct.
And I think they were over at USAID putting a bunch of notes on these weirdo grants. And just being shitheads. If you want my honest opinion, I think
that's not a theory. That's 99% probably correct.
In some of these countries, like transgender vegan yoga making in an Arab country.
Yeah, no.
You know what they don't allow over there? gay people, much
Yeah,
less
they will
transgender.
literally zip tie your hands and throw you off a building, and that's
Yeah,
Kuwait, right? So
So I think getting rid of all the waste, fraud, and abuse that exists within the U.S. government, it's important.
yes,
I do think there is a tremendous amount of good that is done and can be done through USAID. And I don't want to see them. I want them to keep the good parts.
right,
Because it does do some good stuff. But like, I think what we see and what's really happening, it's sleight of hand. It's two different things.
right.
Like, I just think a lot of that stuff got labeled incorrectly, and so everyone's like, "Oh my God, they're sending." Like, there are people that literally think that we spent, what was it, $50 or $5 million on sending condoms to Gaza, and it
Yeah,
wasn't even Gaza, like
no,
Israel, Gaza, Palestine. It was like Gaza somewhere in Africa,
yeah,
which is absurd because they don't use condoms in Africa. I've been there a dozen times. I'm
correct.
going back in August, and like I know that in one instance they were taking condoms and stapling instructions to them.
Hmm.
Like, so here's your square condom with a piece of paper and staple holes through it.
Right.
So getting rid of like all the waste, fraud, and abuse is important. This is my favorite. I'm going to read some stuff. So this is from Joni Ernst, page 27, 26. I'm going to read you guys some statistics on the office buildings in DC. The Department of Energy. So you have square footage and you have usable square footage, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So usable square footage is when you remove the elevators and HVAC systems, and it's just the office floor space. So you basically break that down. Your average person needs 210 square feet of office space per person, which is actually, believe it or not, the same exact size as your average hotel room in America. So based on that, the usable square footage for the Department of Energy is 967,674 square feet, which gives it a capacity of 4,834 people a day. In 2023, what do you think the daily average attendee to the Department of Energy building in DC was?
I mean, it's got to be over 500.
8.
That's insane. Like
8. Not 800, 8. 7 plus 1, 8. 4 times 2. Agency for Global Media. What is that? Usable square footage, 687,000 square feet. Average daily occupancy, 72 people.
Yeah.
So if you look at the Department of Agriculture, 6% daily occupancy. Department of Veteran Affairs, 7% daily occupancy.
Mm-hmm.
And the EPA, 8% daily occupancy. And you go on down the list, and it goes 8%, 9%, 9%, 11%, 11%, 11%. Department of Commerce, HUD, Housing and Urban Development, Office of Personal Management, Nuclear Regulatory Agency. 100 people showed up a day.
Yeah, that's a lot of waste. That's a lot of waste.
That's called insanity, dude. That's sheer freaking insanity is what that is. Let me see if I have any other talking points. No, I think that's all. Yeah, okay. So I got my carried interest, Jack Daniels, NASA. Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess to close it out, Baker. So from all your experience, your business guy, moving up in the world and everything else, what are some final closing thoughts and advice you can give to all the younger Americans out there who are trying to stay involved in their country and trying to be young business owners and moving forward with this administration and in this political and economic environment?
If I was a young guy, the best advice I can give is don't ever try to impress anybody at work. Like, if you show up to work on time with all the right equipment, got all your stuff with you, and you have a positive attitude, you're 80% ahead of everyone else. And then if you're a young guy, there's a fourth one to that, which is just shut the fuck up. Keep your mouth shut. Do your job. Have a really good attitude, and you'll go far. I think people, like I said earlier, like humans tend to complicate things, and we make things kind of a pain in the ass when we make things harder than we need to.
Yeah.
And like put money in your IRA every year. I don't care how much it is. Put money in your IRA every single year. If you do that at the age of 20, when you're my age, you'll have a bunch of money in an account. And then college isn't for everybody. Look at the trades, electrician, HVAC, plumbing, steelworker, all that stuff. There's going to be a ton of that stuff rolling out. And I know guys that got in the trades at 18, 40 years old, they had $2 million in the bank, right at $2 million.
Yeah.
And I think everything that happens before 40, man, is practice. Shit doesn't get serious until you're 40. That's when at 40 years old, you'll realize that you're not going to live forever and that you're mortal,
Yeah, right.
And you kind of have a shift in how you think about things and look at things. And don't worry about things so much. I think it's stress and anxiety doesn't do anything to accomplish your task. Me being stressed and anxious right now, is that going to help me accomplish anything? Fuck no. It's just, you're basically throwing an anchor out in a boat when you're moving down the water,
Right.
But yeah. And one other thing, this saying, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, is a goddamn lie. Only rich people say that.
Right.
People that are already rich say that. Find what you're good at and get someone to pay you to do it. That's
good advice.
That's the key to success in life. There's no poor person that says, "Oh man, do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life." No, fuck no.
No, absolutely not.
But yeah, have fun, man. We only get one turn on this earth. Yeah,
exactly.
Trip. That's it, man. And it's dude, I turned 50 in August, man. I was talking to two buddies of mine in a text a little while ago, and in 1998, widespread panic came to Athens, Georgia, and they did this Panic in the Streets. There's 120,000 people in downtown Athens, Georgia, for an album release party. And I remember it like it was yesterday. That was 25 years ago, man. And just time goes by so fast. And then you'll get to a point when you start looking I've basically got 25 more summers, 20 useful summers, 10 useful summers, 50 to 60, 50 to 70, 20 summers. What, you know what I mean? It's over before you know it. So enjoy it. Don't worry about artificial timelines and stupid ass hypotheticals, and just live your life. Have fun.
No, I agree. I think that's some really great advice, and I want to thank you so much for I know you're a really busy guy. Thanks for coming on the show today, and I'm really looking forward to working with you on some of these things in the future, and making a difference in our country, because like I said, we're the generation that's going to be making a difference here over the next 10, 20 years, and without good business minded people like you and actually going out there and doing all the hard work, we're not going to get it done.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, just hang on for a second as I close this out. And anyway, that was the Tuxes Tomahawks podcast with Baker Leavitt today from Black Rifle Coffee, KillCliff, SmokelessVets, and all the great things you're doing. And thanks for coming on the show today, Baker.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it.